you have a bachelor's degree? Do you have a master's degree? For your bachelor's degree, hopefully you wrote a dissertation, thesis, or research project, whatever your university calls it. For your master's, you also wrote a dissertation or thesis, depending on what your university calls it. If you answered yes to any of these questions, then there is a scholarship for you. Yes, a PhD scholarship, a master's by research scholarship, and an MPhil scholarship for you. Now, a lot of people would say when it comes to Australia, supervisors do not respond to their emails, and that is true. However, there is a tested and proven way for you to get response from supervisors. I'll say that again, tested and proven that works, really works. So if you're interested in scholarship opportunities, please remember to like and subscribe. My name is Brendel. I am a doctoral student here at the University of Strathclyde, and I received full funding for my program. And that helped me to see that you don't have to be the best. You don't always have to be the best. You just have to be intentional. You have to be deliberate, especially in your application process. So in this video, I will show you step by step how to apply to this scholarship. But I want you to really watch this video from the beginning to the end. And I will tell you for a fact, I'm going to give you a breakdown, the easiest and the simplest guide to secure this scholarship. Now let's get right into the video. Here we have the University of Sydney, a great institution. It ranked first in Australia and 25th globally. Impressive. First in Australia, 25th globally, and they are ranked 11th for sustainability in the world. So you know the university is great. Now let's go to the second one. Well, here we see that we have postgraduate research scholarship for international students. There are three categories. You have the general scholarship, you have faculty scholarships, and you have research training program. Now, these three scholarships differ, and we'll be looking at them one after the other. Now, starting with the first one, which will be the general scholarship, you would notice that there are several with various value, okay? So different values, and some of them are university specific, sorry, some of them are country specific. For example, this one in China, there is also another one that covers Arab relations, and there's another one for Indian. So you might want to go through these to see. However, our focus would be on not just the general scholarship or specific one, but giving you an example of specific scholarship would be this one, which is the Henry Batty and Florence Mabel Grattan Research Scholarship that covers stipend for your full program. Deadline is 17th. However, that is still not the best part because we want to look at research training programs. Now, let's talk about this research training program scholarships. We'll take it bit by bit so you understand. Applying to scholarship is time consuming, rigorous. It's sometimes frustrating, but it doesn't always have to be that way if you have someone who has succeeded guide you through the application process. I succeeded in getting two full funding for my PhD program, and I selected the best one for myself. And I can guide you through the application process. Currently, I'm guiding a number of applicants to apply for scholarships all over the world. Take, for example, I had a one-to-one meeting with Bless from Poland who is looking for a master's scholarship. And after reviewing her profile, I gave her tips to improve her chances. In another one-to-one meeting I had with Lame from Botswana, who is looking for a PhD program, I reviewed his application and his proposal. And after looking at all of these, we discussed extensively and I guided him to also contact a supervisor. Another meeting I've had recently is with Joy from Nigeria, who is looking for a Masters by Research program. I helped her to search for tailored scholarship and also offered her guidance to contact supervisors. Now, these three and many others are working on feedback to submit strong applications, and you can be one of them. Yes, you can be one of them. So if you're interested, my calendar is open. You can book a one-to-one session with me, and I'm happy to assist you in the scholarship process. Now, let's jump right back into the video. Now, you would also see here that there are varying values or benefits for this scholarship. This one is stipend. This is fee offset, that is tuition fee off, including overseas student health cover. This one covers stipend. There are various ones, but for all of them, there is one application. Okay, for all of them, it's just one application. It's not multiple application. All right. So how do we apply? Now, I'll take you through the step-by-step process on how to apply to this scholarship so you can secure it. For commencing student, that is, if you want to be a new student, you'd need to go through the Sydney courses and apply by the deadline, before the deadline. All right. So now, and then you submit the scholarship application form. Now, let's start with the courses. So if you click on this link on Sydney courses, it brings you here where you have to find a course. Now, there are different faculties here, but what we're looking for particularly would be research programs. Now, if you click on economics, for example, there are many here. I would normally click on education and social work as that's my field. But if you click on economics, I'll show you an example. There's a point I want to buttress, which is you have undergraduate, postgraduate, and research. But it shows that for research, there are no research courses for this study currently available at the University of Sydney, which means we have to look somewhere else. Now, if you look for, say, example, education and social work, it takes you here. So here you have education and social work. Okay, I already opened one of it already, so I'll just go back. Okay, bear with me. So for education and social work, you have it here. You have some programs for undergraduate, postgraduate thoughts, and research. Now, because we're looking for the RTP Research Training Program Scholarship, we're going to click on research. And on under education research, you find the different programs. Doctor of Philosophy, Master of Education, Master of Philosophy. Now, Master of Philosophy and Master of Education, you have 1.5 year each, or 1 to 2 years rather, 1 to 2 year for both of them. But for PhD, it's 3 to 4 years. So let's say we select Master of Philosophy for this program. Now, there's a reason. So just follow me step by step, okay? Now, for the Master of Philosophy program, there is an overview. The program would last for 1 to 2 years. There's one intake, and there's several intake, but we'll look at it later. I'll come back to that. And if you look at studies, what you'll be studying, you can look at it. Now, there's something I saw here, which I think it's important. Now, it says it is offered in discipline across the visual arts and history, and it covers a lot. Remember, it's Master of Philosophy. And the research areas for MPhil would be under art and science, cover 40 subject areas, and it includes economics, education and social work, language and culture, art communication, and English, humanities, and all of that. So while you may not have seen those somewhere else, it is covered here. For example, that of economics that I mentioned earlier. So you want to check one after the other. Okay. Now, the completion requirement is there. You can read it up on your own. Now, one thing you would also notice is that there's already a study profile here. I've selected international as an international student, and I've also selected start date as 2026. You can edit that to 2027 if you want. We're not interested in the course as we want to apply for scholarship. But here is what we're interested in, the admission criteria. Now, for international students, you can apply to this program, and this is the code. There's a CRICOS in one of my videos, I talk about it, a Commonwealth something, but it shows that this program, international student can apply for it. Now, what are the qualifications? You should have a bachelor's degree with first class or second class honors or master's by research. So if you have a first class or you have a second class, you can apply for this scholarship. Now, if you have master's degree by coursework with an independent research component, that is to say your thesis, your dissertation, or research project, you can also apply to this scholarship. If you have an average pass of 75%, that is for your research project alone, not for the entire degree. Take note for that. Now, this constitutes the minimum requirement for eligibility. All right. Now, the second thing is English language requirement. Now, English language requirement, if you're from select countries, you don't need to be bothered. For example, if you're from Zimbabwe, Zambia, Ghana, Nigeria, New Zealand, South Africa, Solomon Islands, Singapore. Now, if you're from these countries, you don't need to be bothered. You don't need to bother. You don't have to provide proof of English. Otherwise, you might have to provide proof of English. However, if you think you have high English competence, proficient English competence, and you want to plead your case, you could simply send an email to contact the school, basically telling them you were taught in English, you have your degrees in English, you have professional experience in English, or you've been doing presentation in English. Just always do that unless you just want to go take the test. All right, so that's also something to mention for English language requirement. Now we'll come back. What else? Well, the next stage is how to apply. How should you apply? Well, the first thing is to find a potential supervisor within the university. And now we're going to look at how to do this. If you've watched the video to this point, thank you so much for watching to this point. It means you've been here and I appreciate it. Now, this is where it gets interesting. You find a supervisor, You contact the supervisor, and your supervisor might offer advice, and then you do all of that. But now let's talk about them one after the other. We'll come back to this. I'll give you a tip on how to do that. So you find the supervisor, contact the supervisor, then attach your referee reports and other things. When you do all of these, submit your research proposal, your CV, all these documents, then having everything, you can then click on apply now. Okay? Click on apply now, and then you can apply to this program. But do not apply to the program unless you have a supervisor first, because you need a written document from that supervisor. Now, if you click on Research Supervisor Connect, that is, you're looking for a supervisor, it takes you to this page to find a research supervisor. But it's also good to also look on how to write a research proposal for guidance from the University of Sydney. You want to write a proposal that aligns, that follows the structure of the University of Sydney, just something you know. Now, finding a supervisor or finding a research project. Now, there are different ways to do this. I tried to find the list of all the projects. I couldn't, there was no way to do that. If you do, you can let me know. So what I did here was to type generative artificial intelligence or generative AI, which is something related to what I'm currently studying or researching in my program, and that would give you a number of results. So you find here, you see research opportunities. So there are 13 research opportunities or research projects currently ongoing for these, and you just look at it for which one is relevant to you. If I want to also be specific, so you can try different keywords, just like when you're searching on Google. If I type, say, for example, language learning, which is also part of my research, language learning. There are 23 research opportunities, 23 research opportunities. Now, if I click on this first one, which is foreign language learning, and then all of that, it brings me here to, it takes me here. I'll just show you. This is it. So it takes me here, foreign language learning. Now, I don't know why this page appears this way. I've tried refreshing multiple times, so it appears this way. So foreign language learning, we'll get a summary. We also have guide on how to apply. But what we need here would be the supervisor. Now, this is the supervisor. If you click on this, it takes you to the supervisor, but it tells you if you're interested, you're encouraged to email the potential supervisor directly. To find your email, follow the link provided in the profile page. So click on the professor and it brings you here to this professor. Now, this is the professor, all right, Professor Shen. Now we find his email address here and we can send to him. But before you contact him, please do your due diligence. Read the biographic details, read his research interest. These are his research interests. Look at his current project. Read the current project. Look at these themes of his work. And then there are also other research students he's supervising. It will be helpful if you can to contact some of these students on LinkedIn and ask for help. It is okay to ask them for suggestion on how best to send a proposal to these persons, to the supervisor. I mean, that is due diligence. If you've watched the video to this point, please could you type due diligence? I would really appreciate it because it motivates me. It shows that you've been following up to this point and you really want the scholarship. So if you've gotten to this point, could you please type due diligence? I would really, really appreciate that. Thank you. So you look at the current research students, but more importantly, too, I think I also would like you to look at the publications, the selected publications. So these are some of his works. You should read some of his works, and please, please, please. So for books, you can see some of the books, book chapters, journals he's published. There are a number of them. So read the most recent ones and then talk about it. So refer to it. You have all the details here, but you have to do the work. So read the work and you talk about it while sending him an email. I'm going to show you a sample of that, what that should look like. So just bear with me a second while I get that up. Okay. All right then. So while I'm getting that up, the next thing is you've contacted the supervisor, you get a response from him. Then, what else do you do? Well, look, for how to write a research proposal, I would advise you, if in sending a message to the supervisor, include your CV, include your transcript, include your certificates, include your research proposal, include every single thing that you can. Trust me, just include everything. And when I say trust me, it is because I've interviewed successful applicants and they told me that is what they did. Send every single thing, every single thing you can to the supervisor. But of course, send everything as one PDF document, not clustered. Although your research proposal can be sent as a separate document. But I mean, things like your CV, transcript, certificate can be sent as one PDF. You can just merge the different PDF together. If you're wondering how to do that, there's a website called PDF Merger, and then you can do that. So here it gives you a guide on how to write a research proposal. But what I want to draw your attention to is what should it include for the University of Sydney? Project title, research supervisor, proposed mode of research, aims and objectives, synopsis, background, expected research contribution. Just look through all of these, and your research proposal should contain this. Now, because you will be sending to a supervisor, the research proposal you're sending would not include a research supervisor at the moment. However, when the supervisor approves, then you can include this section on research supervisor. Okay, take note of that. And after all of these, you then, of course, fill the research application form. So just to make you aware, for the research training program scholarship in University of Sydney, they'll read a separate application for that. So you're not automatically considered. You have to apply separately for that one. Just so you know. Now let's come back to the scholarship. Okay, so how to apply? We've seen the course series, we've seen how to apply because you need to have, take note, you need to have an unconditional offer of admission. You should have an unconditional offer of admission before applying for this scholarship. Okay, something to also keep in mind. That would be great if you do, but you should apply first. Now, application and award timeline. So something to know. Now, this one says for international student for research period 2 and 3 is what we're focusing on. For research period 2 and 3, period 2 is the deadline is 12th of September 2025. Period 3 is 19th December 2025. That's for the deadline. Please do not delay. The earlier, the better. Apply to this program, get your admission or unconditional offer, and then you can then apply for this scholarship. Just do that. And then you can read further on it. Now, speaking of document to include, now, this is an example of a good email, a code email to send to a supervisor. And it is good on many reasons, on many grounds, because you want to talk about a paper you've read. For example, I recently read your paper, this, and was especially intrigued by this. So you want to talk about something he's read and how you will be excited to pursue similar work. You also want to talk about your own self and your level of preparedness, what makes you competent and suitable to carry out that research. Basically, your academic background. What have you been doing? What research have you done on your own? And then you also want to confirm if he's currently accepting students, and then you'll be specific for what period and whether your background and interest might be a good fit for his work or for him to supervise you and not necessarily lab ongoing projects. So you have to tailor this to suit yourself. If you're interested in this, you can let me know and I'll share this sample. Okay, so there you have it, guys. That is how to apply to this scholarship. And I want to say all the best in your scholarship application.